Can you just tell us, what is dance therapy?
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know what dance therapy is. It's one of the youngest art therapies, especially in the UK. It's actually probably more established in the States at the moment, but in the UK, alongside art therapy, drama therapy, music therapy, DMP, dance movement psychotherapy, is the youngest of the therapies. It's psychotherapy, just as talking therapy is, but we use dance as the medium.
So what might happen in a specific session? So is it groups? Is it individuals? Is it a mixture? What might happen if I came to see you for a session?
Well, I mean, first of all, I would definitely say that I think each dance therapy has their own signature, which is probably relates to their own movement and their own kind of style as well. So I think a lot of us have different approaches, and there's many different ways to work with clients. So in terms of it's not professional dance. I'm never gonna be teaching you a dance move, although sometimes we might sequence depending on, again, the client and how they feel about moving, how they feel about dance. A lot of the times it's actually less about dance as you would imagine. It's more about movement, and it's more about embodiment, and maybe looking at kind of, it can be macro movements or micro. A lot of the times we're just like this, talking, but really kind of connecting into the body, and feeling into what we're talking about. I might stop a client and ask them to feel into their body and to tell me where that's located, to become aware of their sensations, possibly images, thoughts, memories that are popping up. So it's more a visceral kind of work, and I would say it's more embodiment work rather than, because I think dance gives an idea of leaping across the room, and I have had a client do that, but
yeah.
not.
So that makes sense. So the key thing really is about bringing the body back into a kind of therapeutic context where it's not just
Absolutely.
about talking, but about doing and moving. And why is dance or movement helpful? Like, why, not just sitting in a room and having the kind of more, psychoanalytic conversation with the couch and the therapist? Why does movement and dance help?
Our body is the way that we experience the world. It's how we, it's part of everything that we do. So, it's how we feel, how our senses work. When we're in an experience, our body's experiencing it too. The body doesn't lie in its reactions at all. It is very honest in its experience. And I think sometimes when we're working especially in a healing modality, we tend to think our way through. And sometimes actually the body has its own stories and experience that needs to be unpacked. So yeah, for me, I actually was working as a dance teacher and in professional dance before I became a therapist, and was working with people, and started to realize some kind of healing aspect, and that was actually what led me into dance therapy.
That makes perfect sense. And are there particular things for grief that you've noticed with clients? I mean, I suppose everybody's different, but
Yeah.
it is sort of finding the pain of grief, sometimes also working out how that's being experienced physically, or what kind of happens in terms of the body and grief, would you say, particularly?
I mean, you're right. There's very many different experiences, and I think also very many different types of grief. So people come in with different approaches, especially in a kind of bereavement. There's a lot of the relationship towards the person that is lost, and how that was left comes in. One of the most significant things I have noticed, especially in the field of neurodiversity as well, is that someone will feel remote to me in their body. like they're far away, like as if, you're speaking to them, but your sound could be almost across the, in another room, and they can faintly hear you. Sometimes there's a little bit of absence in the spirit. And sometimes there's anger as well, that comes through, and it's displaced. Sometimes there is a lot of love, but not sure where to put it. So it feels overwhelming. Overwhelming.
And we know with grief that one of the most crucial things is actually experiencing the sadness of grief.
Yeah.
That the only way that you can really properly sort of recognize the reality of someone's death and begin to integrate it is to feel that sadness. And I'm struck by you saying that sometimes you work with clients who feel remote, or that there's a kind of disconnect between the body and what they're saying. And I guess part of the therapy might be trying to draw the person into what's happened to them, not just verbally, but in other ways. And I guess trying to reconnect that body and mind. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from the dance perspective, or from the dance movement psychotherapy perspective, dance movement is very different from exercise. We kind of tell ourselves what to do in that regard. But when somebody is motivated to dance, it comes from within. And for me, that's kind of that life force energy speaking. We move from within. And that's the part that also gets turned, that feels numb.
Yeah.
In that sadness, I mean, in my experience, both personally with grief as well as working with my clients over the years, I think the process of trying to come out of grief is that person have to choose that life, that feeling, and re-engage and recommit into living in the places that they feel something has been lost. Actually, I have to admit, with the people, the clients I could think of, this actually starts with a lot of stillness, if I'm honest. It takes a long time, and sometimes it's just about getting a little bit of like almost a self-soothing rhythm that starts in order to kind of allow, but usually we're quite blocked. And we can be quite blocked from moving as well. So it's a slow process.
So is that about kind of paying attention to your body? So less about kind of using it as a medium through which you're expressing feelings, and more that you're tuning into it to listen.
Absolutely. I think you're working more with the attunement at that stage. And again, I'm sorry, I'm thinking because I have felt different examples.
Yeah.
So if I've worked with younger people that actually they need to stomp across the room. They need to stomp, they need to ground, they need to kind of cathartically let something out. They feel, there's more tension, and I can feel that. I guess in that moment, there's something I feel, and I know that person they're still in connection with me, but they're also in connection with what they're feeling. And often that allows an expression to come out, often some tears of what's been held in.
Yeah. So in some ways, it's also just unblocking the feeling, and like maybe the feeling is held in the body, but the person is not listening or allowing that release or expression. And so it's kind of, and I imagine for feelings that are also in some ways impermissible or shameful, people feel angry at the person who's died, but we feel bad about feeling angry. But again, stomping is different from saying I'm angry at my father for dying.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's about letting that come out. But also I think the grounding in the movement allows people to reconnect. And I think that starts the expression, because I think sometimes in that feeling of being absent, you're not in your body.
Yeah.
You're not in your body, you're not present. And I think that's one of the first things, is just let's make a reconnection. And often in the movement, whether it's a group or individually, it's about starting to build that connection between that person and myself, or having it held in the space. And the person needs to feel safe.
Yeah.
You know, in order to allow that part, because they're scared. And to be fair, there's almost like a trembling, you know, of how scared how frightened you can feel underneath of the experience of loss, of abandonment, of loneliness.